Sweet. Hello! Today I'm actually going to show you how to paint bagels because I couldn't do it at the airport earlier. Right now I'm just using acrylic paint. I have a couple pretty common colors, black, white, red, blue, 2 shades of brown and yellow just to be able to mix the right colors. So I'm only going to need 2 brushes for this. It's always good to have more handy, but it's kind of all you need. So one that's like a flat brush with a squared edge, and one that's tinier for the details. So, I was smart, I would have gotten a clean sock beforehand, but it is what it is. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to mix the colors that we're going to use for the dough. So take a fair bit of white, pull it off to the side, and then a little bit of brown. You really do not need that much. Mix it a little bit. This is going to make kind of a beigeish tan, which is why I brought in a little bit of this reddish brown. Just to mix it in a little bit, and then you're going to want to bring in some yellow. This makes a very eggy bagel. So we're going to pull in a little bit more white. I think that's a pretty good color to start with. Maybe a little bit too yellow, so bring in a little more brown. And that's about right. So we're going to start by making these oblong shapes. And like always, we're going to start with the medium tone and just outline the shape. So, in here, it doesn't need to be perfect. Yeah, it's good. And then you're just going to want to fill in the shape. The great thing about acrylic paint is that, especially if you're using very thin layers like I am, you can get it to dry pretty quickly. So we're just going to do a bunch of these all over the canvas, different sizes and shapes and kinds of bagels. Something playful. The reason they're this shape is I wanted to have something that views a little bit of the top of the bagel and also gives it 3-dimensionality. I didn't want to just do top down like a circle. That would be too easy, right? The thing about painting things realistically is that, and I think the #1 error people make when they paint things is they draw them based on the mental model they have of the object that they learned when they were a kid. So they'll draw the sun as like a circle with like rays coming out, or a person as a stick figure. But to make things look realistic, you have to draw them contrary to how you actually think they look. So let's do maybe 2 or 3 more of these. Let's come down. And hopefully by the time we finish drawing these, the first one will be finished and we can just start shading. We're slowly running out of this beige color, so you can always mix more. It's definitely hard to get the exact shade that you had originally, but because we're going to be shading these in anyways, it doesn't matter a ton. They're getting progressively smaller as I run out of paint. Let's just add in a little bit extra here. And then I'll mix up a little bit of that color. Ooh, it's dripping. Yeah. See, this is why I haven't been doing painting videos. It'll be a miracle if I actually keep everything clean. Art is messy, guys. Alright. Just gonna want to come in and fill in these weird shapes. And like always, it's totally fine if they're not the same shape or the same size. It does not matter. Because bagels are imperfect also. Alright. So now that we have these beige blobs, we need to differentiate them into actually looking like bagels. So the first thing that we're going to want to do, it's mostly dry, is we're going to want to make it look like it's not one blob, but rather like a ring, a three-dimensional ring. And the way we do that is by shading. So, like I said in one of my earlier videos, painting is literally just adding color to make shapes that differentiate different objects. So I'm not using any lines, I'm not outlining anything, it's literally just like, where are the shadows and where are the highlights on the object. So in this case, you're gonna have the ring in front, and then you're gonna have the hole in the middle. So you just wanna make this little oblong here so that you see, okay, this is like the bagel going around. And the way you do that is we're going to basically darken the center. Some painters will say you should never use black because nothing in nature is actually black, even shadows. They're all just variations of darker tones like purple or blue. And I mean, it is what it is. I do use black to differentiate things in most of my canvases. Like my personal work is just straight black background. As you can see, like with the earlier pieces that are on black canvas, I think it makes things pop, but I definitely try to use it sparingly in the actual like objects that I'm drawing. I'll try to use, you know, brown or blue, or just, you know, unless I'm really trying to highlight that something's very dark. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take the same bagel color, but we're just going to add a little bit of extra brown to it to make it a little darker. And this color we're going to use to shade this part of the bagel that's towards the hole. That's going to end like right here. And we're going to want to blend that in a little bit to the dark patch. Cool. Okay. And then what we're going to want to do, just like, and also remember, don't use too much paint. You never need as much paint as you feel like you need. Less really is more in terms of painting. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add a little bit of the white to the bagel color, and we're just going to come in and highlight. No, that did not work. Oh, because I put it in the dark area. Okay, we're going to just take some white that's already in this dirty brush, and we're just going to add it to the front of this bagel to add some highlight. And it's still not working. There we go. Alright. So just to show that it's like coming forward. And then you're going to add some up here too, just to bring it in. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take some of the reddish brown and mix it in with the dark brown, just to get like a really nice dark color. And then we're going to add it to the bottom of the front of the bagel, just to show that it's three-dimensional. Up a little bit more, and then what we're going to do is go back to the bagel color, the darker bagel color, and then just blend that in. I try not to have harsh outlines on things when I'm trying to make them look vaguely realistic, because most things in life do not have harsh outlines. So it's always good to just practice your blending. It's also really satisfying when something is blended. This makes it more aesthetically pleasing. Okay. I think I'm satisfied with that for now. This would make more sense if the background were also dark, and so the shadow would look like it were coming in. I don't have any black canvases at home. So it's, you work with what you got. I guess what I could do is I could have made this white to. I guess I can do that. See, this is one of the great things about art is you can always change what you're working on. So even though this is in shadow, if I want to show that the background is white, I can just add lighter and lighter colors. So your imagination is that, okay, it's fading into the background, which is this lighter color. And now I'm out of white paint. But yeah, you get the gist. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with my fine detailed brush, and like I said in a previous video, like, never just use one brush for a project that has different layers of detail in the painting. So a lot of paintings I've done in the past, like if you look at the skeleton one back here, like it's all pretty much the same level of detail. I did use a couple different brushes, like for highlights on the eyebrow, but for the most part, I used one or two like larger brushes. For this though, what I'm gonna want to do is I'm gonna be putting, let's make this like a sesame, poppy seed, everything bagel. So that's how I'm feeling. That's what I had at the airport this morning. So you're just gonna want to come in, and if I had just done black poppy seeds, that would jump way off of the bagel, and it would look really unrealistic. Not that this looks terribly realistic, but you want to have like an equal level of realism in the things that you're painting. So if you do want a more loose, like impressionistic style like this, don't do like really realistic details on top, because then it's not going to read correctly. So that's just kind of something I think about before I attack a project, is like, how realistic do I want this to look? What is the style that I'm using? And I'll go into that in later videos too. But for the meantime, I'm just going to try to put in different little like seeds. I'm going to use the brown, just come in, just kind of everywhere, put in little dots. I'm going to try to put it where I would see them on a normal everything bagel, which is just pretty exclusively like on the top part of the ring. They don't usually extend down here, right, because when you put a topping on a on a baked good, they're usually on this uppermost part. And the way to achieve that is by just thinking about like, okay, you know, what is the top? I wish I had a bagel for this to show you guys, but like, what is the top part? Like, where would that land on this angle of a bagel drawing? And it would usually land just like kind of up here. So it probably wouldn't even extend that far, but artistic license. So just kind of make these weird oblongs. Try to place them randomly as much as possible. For here, they will actually come all the way up to this edge, because this edge is where it falls off on the other side into the rest of the bagel. So you can actually put them like right up onto the edge. And then, yeah, just some fading out there. I think that's pretty good in terms of placement. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna add variation to those. So this is continuing to drip. If there's no drop on the carpeting by the end of this video, I'll be very happy. But yeah, so I'm gonna add a little bit of red just to like some of the seeds. You don't need to add it to all of them, just add some variation. Maybe put some off on their own. The other thing is, as things go back, they get smaller. And that's just a matter of perspective. When you see like a road going off into the background, it diverges into a point, whereas it's wide in the front. And so to add to that, you want to have like larger splotches here in the front, and then these tiny little babies in the back. Doesn't make a whole ton of difference on a piece that's this small, but it kind of helps. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back in with that brown and just make some of these a little bit larger and stronger. And then I'm going to put highlight on top of them to show that they're like shiny seeds. Okay. So adding a little more detail. Okay. So just wipe off. This is, by the way, very bad. You should be wiping off your brush and using different brushes and having water, but you know, we make do here. Let's see. Most of my white paint has dried, but there's a little bit right here. I'm just gonna go in very tiny dots to show they're like shiny. And then I'm gonna put in some white, just because everything bagels have some dots that are like, I guess, onion or something. It's just like white. Try to scoop up a little more white. You can tell you have to be very prepared in advance to do art. I hope that came off as a joke. Okay, I'm gonna add just like the tiniest amount of yellow to add variation. Now this is looking more like an everything bagel. And the other thing is that as things go back into the distance, they also should get darker just a little bit, because the light, assuming it's coming from the front and hitting it, will not hit it as much. So, yeah, there you go. It's vaguely bagely. I'll probably come back and do the others. Maybe some of them will be a donut. We'll see. But I think that's pretty good for now. So, thanks for